Beneath glittering chandeliers, Sterling Caldwell III moved like a king among the wealthy and powerful. To him, Clara Mae Johnson was invisible, an aging black maid whose place was to serve in silence. When she dared to speak, his words dripped with contempt. "Know your place, worthless trash." Sterling believed the insult would end it. He didn't know Clara had spent 18 years observing, remembering, and quietly collecting his secrets. Within 24 hours, she would detonate the truth that would bring down his $2.4 billion empire for all the world to see. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The crystal chandeliers cast golden light across Sterling Caldwell III's penthouse living room, where New York's elite mingled with practiced ease. Clara Mae Johnson moved smoothly between clusters of designer gowns and tailored suits. Her serving tray balanced with the precision of her 18 years' experience. The champagne flutes sparkled, catching the light like tiny beacons. A sudden commotion broke the carefully orchestrated atmosphere. The young server, Marco, barely 20 and new to the job, stumbled. Time seemed to slow as the champagne arced through the air, landing with a splash on Senator Whitmore's expensive suit jacket. I'm so sorry, sir," Marco stammered, his face draining of color. Before anyone could react, Sterling's hand shot out like a viper, grabbing Marco's starched collar. The boy's feet nearly left the ground as Sterling slammed him against the mahogany bookshelves. Books trembled on their shelves, and Marco's eyes went wide with terror. Clara didn't think. She just moved. Setting her tray on a side table, she stepped forward with her palms raised. "Mr. Caldwell!" Sterling spun around, his face twisted with rage. His arms swept out, catching Clara's retrieved tray with deliberate force. The crash echoed through the suddenly silent room as crystal shattered across the parquet flooring. Champagne splattered Clara's pressed uniform, and a sharp edge caught her wrist. "Know your place, worthless trash!" Sterling's voice cut through the air like a whip. "People like you serve, not speak." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Women hidden behind perfect makeup averted their eyes. Men studied their shoes or their drinks. The sound of breaking glass seemed to echo endlessly as the remaining flutes rolled and shattered. Sterling's expensive Italian shoe nudged a surviving champagne flute toward where Clara knelt. "Since you're already on your knees, finish the job." His voice dripped with cruel amusement. Police Chief Donnelly appeared at Sterling's side, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. The chief's face was carefully blank, but his eyes held a warning, not for Sterling, but for anyone who might object. Harold Blaine, Sterling's CFO, watched the scene unfold with clinical detachment, making mental notes about liability and damage control. Through the corner of her eye, Clara caught Senator Whitmore's swift exit through a side door, leaving his champagne-stained jacket as someone else's problem. The senator's departure spoke volumes about the power dynamics in the room. Blood trickled down Clara's wrist, but she kept her voice steady as she turned to Marco, who stood frozen against the bookshelf. "Kitchen, cool water," she said softly, her eyes never leaving Sterling's face. She noted everything about him in that moment, his stance, his expression, the way his keycard fob dangled carelessly from a crystal hook on the nearby wall. Clara knelt carefully, gathering the larger pieces of broken crystal. Her movements were deliberate and efficient, a lifetime of practice evident in every motion. The security cameras mounted in the corners caught her attention, their lazy sweep of the room, the predictable pattern of their rotation. Her mind catalogued these details automatically, filing them away like photographs. The head housekeeper's voice cut through the tension. "Reset for dessert service. Fresh glasses now." The command broke the spell, and conversation gradually resumed. The wealthy guests turned back to their discussions of charity galas and market futures, the recent unpleasantness already fading from their carefully curated reality. Clara moved methodically around the room, wiping down the smoked glass coffee table until it gleamed. She straightened the imported silk pillows on the leather sofas, each movement precise and controlled. Her breathing steadied as she worked, though her pulse still thrummed steadily in her throat. Sterling had already reclaimed his domain, his perfect white teeth flashing as he laughed with a group of investors. His performance was flawless. The benevolent host, the successful businessman, the philanthropist. But Clara saw past the facade now, past the expensive suit and practiced charm. The sting of humiliation settled deep in her chest, transforming into something harder and colder with each passing moment. She wheeled her cart toward the service hallway, every turn of the wheels measured and quiet. The cart's contents clinked softly. Broken crystal, soiled napkins, and stained dignity packed away like any other mess to be disposed of. As the last guests filtered out of Sterling's penthouse, Clara waited for the cleaning crew to leave before heading to his office. The heavy wooden door clicked shut behind her, and she breathed in the lingering scent of expensive cologne and leather. Her wrist still stung where the crystal had cut her earlier. The office was a monument to power. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, awards mounted on Brazilian rosewood walls, and a desk that could have paid her rent for a year. Clara moved methodically, starting with the windows and working her way in. Each surface got the same careful attention, regardless of what had happened earlier. That was her way. When she reached the desk, she crouched to wipe underneath the drawers, her cloth catching on something. A metallic click made her freeze. The bottom drawer's false panel had shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. Clara's heart picked up speed as a flash drive tumbled onto the desk, labeled simply A. Insurance. Next to it lay a stack of contracts, each bearing unfamiliar company names and offshore addresses. She held perfectly still, listening. The penthouse was silent except for the soft hum of the climate control system. Moving carefully, she slipped the drive into her pocket and returned the contracts exactly as she'd found them. The false bottom clicked back into place with a gentle push. Clara finished cleaning the office as if nothing had happened, her movements unchanged but her mind racing. When she finally stepped into the service elevator, she pulled a spare sock from her tote bag and tucked the drive inside, burying it beneath her change of clothes. The elevator descended 60 floors, stopping occasionally for other service workers. Clara kept her expression neutral, though her fingers never left the strap of her tote. Once in the basement, she pulled out her phone and composed a text to V. Reyes. 3 years ago, she'd helped V escape through the service entrance when Sterling's security had tried to break up a union meeting. Now, it was time to call in that favor. "I have something," Clara typed, then hit send. The subway platform was crowded with late-night workers heading home. Clara boarded the first train, then transferred at Jackson Heights. She switched trains again at Roosevelt Avenue, doubling back once to ensure she wasn't followed. Her tote stayed pressed against her side the whole time. V's apartment building in Queens was a walk-up with peeling paint and sturdy locks. Clara climbed 5 flights, her legs burning by the time she reached V's door. Before she could knock, the door opened to reveal V's sharp features and concerned expression. "You okay?" V asked, ushering her inside. "You never text this late." "I'm fine," Clara said, though her wrist throbbed. "But I need help." A woman Clara didn't recognize sat cross-legged on V's worn couch, a laptop balanced on her knees. "This is Priya," V explained. "She's good with computers. Like, really good." Priya barely looked up, her fingers moving steadily across the keyboard. "The laptop's clean," she said. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no connections to anything. Whatever you've got, we can look at it safely. Clara pulled out the sock and extracted the flash drive. Priya handled it like it might explode, inserting it into a separate device before connecting to her laptop. Making a perfect copy first, she explained. Never work with the original. Files began populating the screen. Spreadsheets, PDFs, folders within folders. Priya's expression grew more focused as she navigated through them. Offshore accounts, she muttered. Lots of them. Shell companies, fake charitable foundations, safety inspection reports with different dates on the same documents. Stop, V said suddenly, pointing at the screen. Go back to that one. D. Rourke Consulting LLC. That's Chief Donnelly's company. He runs it through his wife's maiden name. Clara leaned closer. The spreadsheet showed regular payments, 6 figures each, flowing from Sterling's various entities to the LLC. He's on the payroll, she said quietly. A locked folder marked List A refused to open, demanding a passphrase. Priya made 3 copies of everything, storing them on separate encrypted drives. Whatever's in there, he wanted it protected, she said. But we've got more than enough without it. They gathered around V's kitchen table. The laptop's glow the only light besides the street lamps outside. V pulled up Sterling's schedule on her phone. He's opening the stock market next week. Big PR event, lots of cameras. Perfect timing, Priya said, typing notes. We release these files in waves, starting small, building up to the biggest hits right as he's smiling for the cameras. But what if they trace it back? Clara asked, thinking of the security cameras, the army of lawyers at Sterling's disposal. V's smile was grim. That's why we set up a dead man's switch. If anything happens to us, if we go offline or disappear, everything dumps at once. All of it. Priya powered down the laptop, removing any trace of their work. The smell of brewing coffee filled the apartment as they discussed timing, platforms, journalists they could trust. Clara's hands wrapped around a warm mug, the ceramic steady against her palms. The cut on her wrist had stopped bleeding, but the memory of Sterling's voice, "Know your place," still echoed in her mind. As dawn approached, they gathered around Priya's laptop again. The hacker's fingers moved with precision as she assembled what she called a media package, documents, spreadsheets, and recordings organized for maximum impact. Maya Chen at the City Ledger, Priya said, pulling up the journalist's profile. She's broken 3 major corruption stories this year. Never backs down, protects her sources. She created an encrypted folder with Maya's name on it. Clara nodded, remembering Maya's recent exposé on construction kickbacks. Can we trust her? She's the best, V confirmed, and she hates Sterling. He tried to buy her paper last year to shut down an investigation. Priya handed Clara a small microphone. We need your statement. Keep it simple. How you found the drive, what you saw, chain of custody. No emotional details yet. Clara's voice was steady as she spoke into the recorder. On the evening of September 15th, while performing my regular cleaning duties, I discovered documents and digital files indicating systematic criminal activity by Sterling Caldwell III and Caldwell Industries. She detailed the discovery, the contents, and the handling of the evidence. Professional. Detached. Like testifying in court. V spread papers across the kitchen table, creating a timeline of events. We start with the offshore accounts at 9:15 a.m., right as the market opens. Then the safety violations at 9:30, when he's scheduled to ring the bell. She marked each beat with precise times, building toward maximum impact. I'm adding digital watermarks to everything, Priya said, her screen reflecting in her glasses. Invisible traces that'll prove these are the originals if Sterling claims they're fake. She worked methodically, file by file, while a progress bar crept across the screen. Clara sat at V's desktop computer, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The cursor blinked at her as she began typing. At 8:47 p.m., in full view of witnesses, Sterling Caldwell III physically assaulted an employee. She detailed the events in the kitchen. The spilled champagne, the shove, his words. No emotion, just facts. Names of witnesses, times, the crystal breaking, the blood on her wrist. Done, Priya announced, showing them a script that would release the documents across multiple platforms simultaneously. If they block one stream, it splits into 10 more. Try to stop this, and it's like cutting off a hydra's head. V pulled out a steel lockbox and removed a second encrypted drive. Backup plan, she said, sliding it into a prepaid envelope addressed to a downtown bank's safety deposit service. The name on the envelope wasn't any of theirs. If something goes wrong, this automatically gets delivered in 72 hours. They worked through the night, checking details, closing gaps. Priya built redundancies into their digital infrastructure, while V mapped out media contacts and activist networks ready to amplify the story. Clara reviewed every document, her memory for detail catching small inconsistencies they could fix before release. The first hint of dawn began to lighten the windows. They'd been working for hours, running on coffee and determination. Clara stood and walked to the window, watching the pale light touch the tops of buildings. The city was waking up, unaware of what was coming. Her palms tingled as she rubbed them together, but her breathing remained steady. This was really happening. In a few hours, Sterling's carefully constructed world would begin to crumble. V appeared beside her, holding out 2 items, a basic flip phone and a piece of paper with an address. "Burner phone," she explained. "Only call us from this, then destroy it. And this is a safe house about 10 blocks from here. Former Union crash pad, totally off the grid." Clara took both, memorizing the address before burning the paper in V's sink. The phone felt light in her hand, temporary, like everything else about this moment. The calm before the storm they were about to unleash. The sun continued its slow climb over Queens, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. In Sterling's penthouse, the morning cleaning crew would be arriving soon, discovering nothing amiss in his immaculate office. The false bottom drawer would stay silent. The security cameras would show only Clara's usual efficient routine. Soon, he would wake up in his multi-million-dollar apartment, put on one of his $5,000 suits, and prepare to bask in the attention of his stock market photo op. He would have no idea that with each passing minute, he was moving closer to his own destruction. The burner phone felt heavy in Clara's pocket as she gathered her things. The cut on her wrist had scabbed over, but she could still hear the sound of crystal shattering, still feel the sting of his words. She looked at V and Priya, these women who had become her conspirators in the space of one night. They nodded at her, understanding in their eyes. There would be no going back after this morning. Clara stood in the fluorescent-lit lobby of the downtown bank, her hands steady as she filled out the safety deposit box rental form. The name C. May flowed from her pen in careful cursive. Simple, forgettable. Just another customer on a busy morning. The bank clerk barely glanced at her ID, more interested in his coffee than verification. "Box 2174, he droned, sliding a key across the counter. "Follow me, please." In the vault room, Clara waited until the clerk left, before removing the clone drive and a sealed envelope from her bag. The affidavit inside detailed everything: the discovery, the contents, the witnesses at the gala. Her signature at the bottom used her real name. This was her insurance, her proof that she'd acted deliberately and in sound mind. She placed both items in the box, closed it with a soft click, and locked away this piece of protection. The key felt small in her palm. Another secret to carry, another layer of security. Outside on the crowded sidewalk, Clara blended into the rush of morning commuters. The September air held a hint of autumn, but she felt a drop of sweat roll down her back when her personal phone buzzed in her pocket. The landlord's name flashed on the screen. Her thumb hesitated before opening the text. Multiple complaints received regarding lease violations. Unauthorized business activities conducted from premises. Please respond immediately. Clara's jaw tightened. She'd lived in that apartment for 12 years without a single complaint. The timing wasn't subtle. Sterling's people were already moving fast, trying to destabilize her life. She kept walking, weaving between tourists, taking photos of skyscrapers. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a news alert. The Caldwell Industries PR Twitter account had posted a statement. Clara May Johnson has been terminated from her position due to concerning incidents of theft and emotional instability. Our legal team is fully cooperating with law enforcement regarding these serious allegations. The words emotional instability made her want to laugh. Classic playbook. Discredit the whistleblower, paint her as unstable, make her story seem less credible before it even breaks. She'd seen it happen to others who'd crossed Sterling. Her burner phone vibrated. V's message was brief. Expected. Stick to plan. Of course V would have anticipated this. She'd seen these tactics before in her union organizing days. Clara ducked into a busy cafe, the smell of coffee and pastries filling the air. She found a corner table with her back to the wall, ordered a tea she wouldn't drink, and pulled out the burner phone. Her message to Maya was equally brief. Confirm receipt. The response came quickly. 9:15 a.m. Window confirmed. Locked and loaded. Clara checked her watch. Just over an hour until everything would start. She imagined Maya in the City Ledger newsroom, probably on her third coffee, double-checking sources and preparing to light the fuse that would blow Sterling's world apart. The cafe television played a financial news channel on mute. Sterling's face appeared in a promo spot about his upcoming market bell ceremony. His practiced smile, his perfectly tailored suit, his air of untouchable authority, all of it about to crumble. Clara finished her tea, left a tip, and took a circuitous route to the safe house. She doubled back twice, rode 3 different subway lines, and walked the final 6 blocks in a pattern V had taught her to spot any tails. The safe house was a 3rd-floor walk-up in a neighborhood where nobody looked too closely at their neighbors. The key was under a loose brick by the back door, just as V had said. Inside, the apartment was spare but clean. A bed, a table, some chairs, blackout curtains already drawn. Clara's phone lit up with a notification from Priya. A simple green dot indicating all systems were ready. The scheduled posts were queued. The dead man's switch was active, and their digital arsenal was primed to launch. She opened her bag and pulled out her maid's uniform, the same one she'd worn yesterday when Sterling had humiliated her in front of his guests. The crisp black dress with its white collar, the sensible shoes, the apron with its deep pockets. For 18 years, she'd worn this uniform like armor, moving invisible through the worlds of the wealthy, seeing everything while being seen as nothing. Clara laid the uniform flat on the bed, smoothing out the wrinkles. In less than an hour, it would transform from a symbol of her submission into evidence of her resistance. The uniform that had made her invisible would help make her story impossible to ignore. She sat in a chair by the window, watching thin strips of morning light peek through the curtains. Her phones, both of them, stayed silent now. Everything was in motion. Everyone was in position. All she could do was wait for 9:15 a.m., when the first domino would fall. Clara watched the financial news live stream on Priya's secure laptop, the volume low but clear in the safe house's morning quiet. Sterling stood on the stock exchange platform, waving and smiling as cameras flashed. He looked exactly like he had in his penthouse. Untouchable. Imperial. Certain of his power. 2 minutes, Priya said from her workstation, fingers flying across 3 keyboards. Screens filled with code reflected in her glasses. V paced behind them, phone pressed to her ear. Maya's ready. City Ledger homepage is prepped. Social amplification network standing by. Clara's hands were steady in her lap. The uniform she'd laid out caught the gray morning light filtering through the curtains. She thought of the young server's face as Sterling had shoved him, of crystal shattering on parquet floors, of laughter floating like poison in the air. 60 seconds, Priya announced. First payload formatting complete. On screen, Sterling gripped the ceremonial market opening bell, his billion-dollar smile gleaming. The countdown clock ticked. 10, 9, 8. Releasing now, Priya said quietly. The first documents hit simultaneously across multiple platforms. Tax records showing elaborate schemes of offshore accounts and shell companies, internal memos detailing fake charitable foundations used to launder money and dodge taxes. Within seconds, the City Ledger homepage updated with Maya's investigative piece, connecting all the dots in devastating detail. Second wave, Priya called out, her voice tight with focus. The video started spreading. Shaky phone footage of a collapsed factory in Malaysia, where underpaid workers had been forced to keep working despite structural warnings. Alongside it, leaked emails showed Sterling personally ordering safety inspection reports to be falsified. There's the money trail, V said, watching another screen. Years of payments from Caldwell Industries to D. Rourke Consulting LLC. Regular deposits that lined up perfectly with Police Chief Donnelly's private account deposits. The stock ticker at the bottom of the financial news feed stuttered, then plunged. Caldwell Industries opened down 12% and falling fast. The anchor's practiced smile cracked as she touched her earpiece. We're getting multiple breaking news alerts regarding Caldwell Industries, she said. We'll need to cut away from the opening bell ceremony for... Sterling's face tightened on camera as someone whispered in his ear. The bell remained unrung. SEC announcement incoming, Priya reported, scanning feeds. They're launching immediate information requests to all Caldwell subsidiaries. Clara leaned forward as a new alert crawled across the screen. Breaking. Caldwell Industries board member Marlene Ash announces immediate resignation. The statement was brutally simple. In light of serious allegations supported by compelling evidence, I can no longer in good conscience maintain my position on the board of Caldwell Industries. I have forwarded all relevant materials to appropriate authorities. Stocks down 18% now, V said. Trading might get halted soon. Clara watched Sterling's face on the live stream, the same face that had twisted with rage in his penthouse, that had smiled as he ordered her to clean up the mess he'd made. Now that smile was gone, replaced by something closer to fear. The cold satisfaction she felt wasn't quite joy. It was deeper than that. A weight lifting, a balance shifting, justice beginning to turn like a massive wheel. More board members prepping statements, Priya reported. 2 major shareholders dumping stock. Maya's piece is trending nationwide. A knock at the door froze them all. 3 slow, 2 fast. The pattern V had specified. V checked the peephole, then opened the door to reveal Andre Lewis, still in his night shift security uniform from Sterling's tower. Clara recognized him. He'd always treated the cleaning staff with quiet respect, nodding hello while other guards ignored them. I saw what he did to you yesterday, Andre said, stepping inside. In the penthouse. But that wasn't the first time. I've heard things, seen things, over the years. He pulled a thumb drive from his pocket, handed it to V. Internal security footage. Multiple incidents. Audio, too. He forgets the camera's record sound when he's angry. There's stuff from the executive elevator, the parking garage, his private conference room. Times and dates are all watermarked. V plugged the drive into Priya's security station for scanning. This is major, Andre, but it puts you at risk. Andre's face was calm, determined. Some risks are worth taking. When you see wrong happening right in front of you, over and over, and you do nothing. He shook his head. At some point, you're part of it. I'm done being part of it. Priya's screens filled with thumbnail previews of security videos. This is all authenticated. Clean timestamps, no tampering. This is going to destroy whatever's left of his "it's all lies" defense. Clara stood and faced Andre. "Thank you," she said simply. He nodded. Sometimes the night shift sees what the day shift pretends not to notice. Time somebody turned the lights on. Clara leaned closer to Priya's monitor as the security footage began to play. The video quality was crisp, showing Sterling's executive office late at night. He lounged in his leather chair, drink in hand, while Harold Blaine stood by the window. "The transfers are clean," Sterling said, swirling his glass. "I had our friends in security ensure the loading dock cameras have convenient maintenance periods during sensitive times." His laugh echoed through the speakers. "And the paperwork?" Blaine asked, his voice tight. "Please." Sterling waved dismissively. "Between D. Rourke's cooperation and Whitmore's." The voice that cut in came from just off camera, sharp and warning. "Sterling!" The video jumped to another clip. Priya frowned, typing rapidly. "Someone edited that section. But the timestamp shows this was just last week." "Can you recover the missing audio?" Andre asked. "Working on it. But even this mention of Whitmore." Priya's fingers flew across the keyboard. Clara's burner phone buzzed with a news alert. Caldwell Industries CEO Sterling Caldwell III to hold emergency press conference at 12 p.m. EST. "He's trying to get ahead of it," V said, reading over Clara's shoulder. "But he doesn't know what else we have." Another text came through, this one from Maya. "I'll be at the presser. Front row. Watch for me." They checked the market ticker. Caldwell Industries stock had plunged 43% since opening. Trading had been halted twice already. 3 more board members had resigned. Clara pulled out the statement she'd prepared, reading it aloud again. "I witnessed Mr. Caldwell physically assault an employee while making racist remarks. When I intervened, he publicly humiliated me and threatened my job. This pattern of abuse extends far beyond one incident." "Good," V said. "Clear, specific, impossible to dismiss as disgruntled employee talk, especially with Andre's footage backing it up." She checked her phone and stood up. "I need to step out briefly. I kept notebooks from my organizing days. One of them has details about Sterling's old password patterns. Might help crack that list of file." "Be careful," Clara said. "They'll be looking for all of us now. I know these streets." V smiled. "Back in 30 minutes. Promise." She headed for the door. Priya moved quickly, typing commands. "Setting the dead man's switch. If anything happens to our main feeds, everything dumps automatically." She reached into her bag and handed Clara a small canister. "Pepper spray. Just in case." Clara tucked it into her pocket as they turned their attention to the press conference feed. Sterling's usual podium had been set up in Caldwell Industries' main lobby. Reporters packed the space, Maya's dark hair visible in the front row. Sterling strode out, his smile noticeably strained. "I want to address these malicious allegations directly," he began. "Caldwell Industries categorically denies all accusations of financial impropriety or worker mistreatment. These fabricated documents are clearly the work of criminal elements." "Mr. Caldwell," Maya's voice cut through clearly, "how do you respond to evidence of systematic tax evasion through your offshore subsidiaries?" "Baseless accusations," Sterling snapped. "Next question." What about the collapsed factory in Malaysia? Another reporter called out. Internal emails show you personally ordered. More fabrications, Sterling interrupted. We maintain the highest safety standards. Mr. Caldwell. Maya again, holding up her phone. Would you like to comment on this audio recording from your penthouse yesterday? The room fell silent as she pressed play. Sterling's voice filled the space, cruel and clear. Know your place, worthless trash. People like you serve, not speak. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sterling's face contorted. That's clearly doctored. Maya kept going. We have multiple witnesses to this incident, including several of your guests. Would you like to explain what you meant by people like you? This press conference is over. Sterling turned to leave. Sir, is it true the SEC has launched? The feed cut to black. Clara gripped the edge of the desk, staring at the blank screen. Priya's fingers flew across keys, trying to find another live feed. Maya did it, Clara whispered. She got it all on record. In front of everyone. Look, Priya said, pulling up a social media feed. Clips of Sterling's reaction were already spreading, along with screenshots of the stock price, down 51% now. Andre checked his phone. My contacts inside say he stormed straight to the executive elevator. He's calling everyone. Lawyers, board members, the police chief. No one's picking up. Clara touched the pepper spray in her pocket, thinking of Maya facing Sterling down, wondering where V was. The safe house felt smaller suddenly, the shadows in the corners deeper. Priya's screens filled with incoming data. More documents dropping. Former employees speaking out. That factory video is everywhere now. She looked up at Clara. This is really happening. His empire's crumbling in real time. Good, Clara said softly, remembering Crystal breaking under her knees. Let it fall. Maya's silence stretched longer with each passing minute. Clara checked her burner phone again. No new messages since the press conference. V should have been back 20 minutes ago. Feed's completely dark now, Priya reported, her fingers drumming nervously on the keyboard. All Caldwell Industries channels are offline. Clara dialed V's number, listening to it ring endlessly. Her heart beat faster with each unanswered tone. Something's wrong. V always answers. Andre moved to the window, peering through a gap in the blinds. Street's gotten busy. Lots of suits I don't recognize. A metallic click from the window latch made them all freeze. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she watched the metal slowly shift. Back room, Andre whispered, grabbing a wooden kitchen chair. His knuckles whitened around the chair legs as he positioned himself beside the door. Priya's fingers flew across her laptop. With 3 quick keystrokes, a piercing alarm shrieked from somewhere down the hall. The sound of footsteps outside paused. Beta team, northeast corner, a muffled voice said. Possible diversion. Hold position. Clara pressed against the wall, her hand finding the pepper spray in her pocket. The door handle rattled slightly. Clear signal from the tracker, another voice reported. Unit confirmed. Priya's eyes widened. She grabbed a small flashlight from her bag and crawled toward the window unit AC, scanning underneath. Her hand emerged holding a tiny black disc. How long? Clara mouthed silently. Priya shook her head. No way to know. The burner phone in Clara's pocket vibrated. A single message lit up the screen. You're next. Go bags, Andre mouthed, pointing to the backpacks they'd prepared. Backstairs. They moved silently, gathering only what they'd designated as essential. Priya's fingers never stopped moving, triggering more security alerts in other parts of the building. The back stairwell was narrow and dark. Clara led the way, counting steps by touch. At the bottom, Andre eased the door open just enough to scan the alley. Lunch crowds picking up, he whispered. We can blend if we split up. Meet at the secondary location. Priya said. 1 hour. Different routes. Clara nodded, adjusting her jacket to look more like an office worker on break. She stepped out first, forcing herself to walk casually. Behind her, she heard Andre and Priya's footsteps diverging in different directions. The streets were filled with people getting lunch. Everyone focused on their phones or conversations. Clara matched their pace, stopping at food carts, window shopping, letting the crowd's movement carry her further from the safe house. She checked her burner phone again. Still no word from V. The screen refreshed with a breaking news alert that made her stomach lurch. Breaking. City Ledger journalist Maya Chen found dead in apartment. Police suspect suicide. Clara stumbled, catching herself against a storefront. Her vision blurred as she read the details. Prominent investigative reporter Maya Chen, 37, was discovered in her Upper West Side apartment this afternoon. Sources say a note was found at the scene. She forced herself to keep walking, even as her legs threatened to give out. 3 more blocks to Priya's backup location, an old upholstery shop with an office in the back. Just 3 blocks. The bell above the shop door chimed as Clara entered. The owner, an elderly woman who owed Priya a favor, nodded slightly and pointed to the back without speaking. Clara made her way through the rows of fabric bolts and half-finished furniture. Andre was already there, pacing the small office. Priya arrived minutes later, immediately connecting a new laptop to check their security feeds. Clara sank into a worn armchair, her breath coming in shallow gasps as the news about Maya truly hit her. She was just there, she whispered. At the press conference. She was just there. No way it was suicide, Andre said firmly. Maya had everything documented, backed up. She knew how to protect herself. The note, Priya read from her screen, allegedly mentions professional pressure and regret over recent stories. She looked up, face grim. They're trying to discredit everything she reported. Make it seem like she cracked under guilt over false accusations. Clara's hands shook as she pulled out her burner phone. The threat message glowed back at her. You're next. The shop bell chimed distantly. They all tensed, but it was just a customer asking about reupholstering a couch. I should have known, Clara said, her voice hollow. When he grabbed that boy in the kitchen. I should have known how far he'd go to keep control. Maya knew the risks, Priya said quietly. She chose to face him anyway, to get the truth out there. And now she's dead. Clara's words hung in the stuffy office air. The overhead light flickered, casting strange shadows across the piled furniture and rolls of fabric. Outside, traffic noise filtered in. Normal city sounds that felt surreal against the weight of what had happened. Andre checked his phone. Still no word from V? Clara shook her head, trying to force air into lungs that seemed to have forgotten how to work. Clara stared at Maya's photo on the news site, her grief crystallizing into something harder, colder. Her fingers curled into fists. We're not stopping, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Maya died getting this story out. We owe her. Priya nodded, already typing. List a partition. It's the key to everything. Her screen filled with code as she reopened the encryption program. Sterling would use something he couldn't forget. Something meaningful but not obvious. Tell me what you need, Andre said, pulling up a chair. Clara closed her eyes, picturing Sterling's office. There was a photo on his desk. Old sailing picture. Him as a kid with his father. The yacht's name? Priya asked. Artemis II, Clara remembered. But that's too obvious. Andre pulled out his phone. Let me check something. He scrolled through old security footage. Every morning, Sterling uses the same code for his private elevator. 6 digits. His mother's birthday? Priya suggested. Clara shook her head. Her maiden name, Ashworth. He mentioned it at the gala, bragging about old money. They dug deeper into Sterling's public life. His first company's name, the offshore account codes, his childhood address. Each detail they uncovered felt like another piece of a puzzle they couldn't quite solve. His main charity foundation, Clara said suddenly. The one he uses to hide money. What's the full name? Caldwell Family Trust for American Excellence, Priya read. Established, 1987. CFT, 1987. Andre tried. Priya's fingers flew across the keyboard. The screen flashed red. Not quite. Clara paced the small office, her shoes silent on the worn carpet. The trust. He called it something else at the gala. Something about legacy. Wait. Andre pulled up a video clip on his phone. Sterling at a podium giving a speech. The Caldwell legacy of excellence continues through our charitable works. TCLE 1987, Priya typed. The screen flashed green. Files began populating the window. We're in, Priya whispered. Oh God. The list scrolled endlessly. Judges' names with payment amounts. Regulatory officials and dates of interventions. Police captains with assigned territories. Each entry had attached documentation. Photos, bank transfers, transcripts of conversations. Senator Whitmore's name appeared repeatedly, linked to massive payments and notes about legislative management and oversight coordination. But worse were the entries marked cleanup required. Each one corresponded to a date just before a suspicious death or disappearance. Journalists, whistleblowers, a labor organizer in Detroit, an environmental activist in Oregon. 3 journalists in the past year, Andre noted grimly. All ruled suicides or accidents. Priya's hands shook slightly as she worked. Mirroring everything now. 3 separate cloud vaults, different providers. Even if they find one, they won't find all 3, Clara finished. The overhead light flickered again. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Priya, Andre called from the window. Check the police channels. She switched screens, her face paling. Bolo just went out. Clara May Johnson, wanted for corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, criminal conspiracy. A photo of Clara flashed across the screen, her employee ID from Caldwell Industries. The timestamp showed it had been distributed to every precinct in the city. Sterling's attorneys filed formal charges. Priya continued reading. They're calling you a disgruntled former employee who stole sensitive documents and fabricated evidence. The shop bell chimed again. Heavy footsteps crossed the front room. Priya killed the lights with one keystroke. Andre moved silently to the door, peering through a crack as flashlight beams swept the main shop area. Just looking for reupholstery estimates, a gruff voice said. Shop seems closed. The footsteps retreated. The bell chimed once more. In the darkness, Clara's whisper was barely audible. We keep going. They'll be watching everything, Andre warned. Train stations, airports, your apartment. Then we change the game, Clara said. Stop running and take the fight to them. Priya's screen cast a blue glow across their faces as she continued backing up files. The list. A contents stream to secure servers. Each name and payment another nail in Sterling's coffin. The old shop creaked around them. Through the walls came the muffled sounds of the city. Traffic, voices, the rumble of the subway below. Normal sounds that felt like a different world now. Clara touched the screen where Maya's photo still showed in a small window. He thought he could bury this, she said softly. Bury us. Like all the others. He didn't count on you, Andre said. No, Clara agreed. He didn't count on any of us. The last files finished uploading. Priya began wiping the laptop's drive. In the darkness, they could just make out each other's silhouettes. 3 people against an empire, armed with nothing but truth and determination. The weight of Maya's death pressed against them. the threat of V's silence, the growing danger as Sterling's net tightened. But in that moment, none of them touched their phones or checked the windows. They simply breathed together in the dark, letting their resolve harden into something unbreakable. The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows of Priya's backup location, a cramped studio apartment above a laundromat. The washing machines below hummed like distant engines, almost drowning out the ring of Clara's burner phone. "Jamal?" Clara answered, recognizing her brother's number. Heavy breathing. Then a stranger's voice. "Your brother's being processed at the 47th precinct. Equipment violation. Broken tail light. Funny thing is, his truck passed inspection last week." Clara's hand tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" "Someone who knows how this ends." The voice was calm, practiced. "Walk away now, before more family members have equipment problems." The line went dead. Clara's fingers trembled as she dialed Jamal's regular number. Straight to voicemail. She tried his work phone. Nothing. "They're moving faster," Andre said, looking up from his tablet. Getting desperate. Priya's fingers flew across her keyboard. Found the arrest record. Officer Timothy Walsh, known associate of Chief Donnelly. The charge is garbage. They didn't even try to make it look real. Clara paced the small room, her shoes silent on the thin carpet. The laundromat's rhythmic thumping seemed to match her heartbeat. "They're targeting my family now, just like they did to Maya." "We can use that," Priya said. She spun her laptop around. "Look, I've set up a secure channel. You record a message, I'll encode it with a blockchain timestamp and link it to the vault copies. Once it's out there, they can't erase it." Clara nodded, settling into a chair. Andre adjusted the webcam while Priya checked levels. "Ready?" Priya asked. Clara took a deep breath, looking directly into the lens. "My name is Clara May Johnson. Yesterday, I was a housekeeper. Today, I'm being hunted by one of the most powerful men in New York. Sterling Caldwell III thinks he can silence me by threatening my family. He's wrong." She kept her voice steady, though her hands shook beneath the desk. "I've seen his secret files, the bribes, the blackmail, the deaths he calls cleanup. Now my brother has been arrested on fake charges. A journalist is dead, but I'm still here, and I have proof." Priya gave her a thumbs up as she finished. "Perfect. Uploading now with encrypted links to the evidence." Andre's phone buzzed. He frowned at the screen. "You need to see this." He held out his phone, showing security footage from inside the police station. Chief Donnelly stood in a circle of officers, his voice clear through the audio. "I want noise around the Johnson family," Donnelly growled. "Traffic stops, code violations, whatever it takes to send a message. But keep it clean, nothing that sticks." "Bastard," Clara whispered. Priya's laptop pinged. She clicked through several screens before her eyes widened. "Emergency shareholder meeting tonight, 7 p.m. Sterling's trying to stop the bleeding before the market opens tomorrow." "How many guards?" Andre asked. "Standard evening shift plus private security. But I know the catering company they use. High-end events, minimal background checks on temp staff." Clara stood, smoothing her shirt. "Then that's our way in. Live stream everything. Show them exactly who Sterling Caldwell really is." "It's risky," Andre warned. "If they catch you—" "They caught my brother for doing nothing," Clara said. "At least this way we make it count." Priya opened a duffel bag, pulling out a black blazer with a catering company logo. "I can hack their staff scheduling system, add you to the evening shift. The body cam is sewn into the lapel, totally invisible." "What about V?" Clara asked softly. None of them had heard from her since she left to get her notebook. "I've got alerts set for hospitals and precincts," Priya said. "Nothing yet." Clara slipped on the blazer, checking the fit in a smudged mirror. The tiny camera lens was barely noticeable, Just another button among many. Testing feed, Priya muttered, typing commands. A small window opened on her screen showing Clara's reflection. Video and audio, both clear. Stream will go live the moment you enter the building. Andre handed Clara a folded piece of paper. Service entrance codes. Security rotation schedule. You'll have about 20 minutes between shifts at 7:15. Clara tucked the paper into her pocket, then paused. Through the window, she could see the sky darkening over the city. Somewhere out there, Jamal sat in a cell. V was missing. Maya would never file another story. The washing machines below kept their steady rhythm. Wash, spin, rinse. Like a countdown. The second they realize who you are, Priya started. I know. Clara straightened her blazer. In and out. Priya nodded, handing her an earpiece small enough to vanish behind her hair. We'll be monitoring everything. First sign of trouble, you get out. The camera's invisible eye watched as Clara checked her reflection one final time. The blazer fit perfectly. Another uniform, another role to play. But this time, she wasn't serving. She was hunting. A white van with faded Metro Electronics lettering idled 3 blocks from Caldwell Tower. Inside, Priya hunched over 3 laptops while Andre tested wireless signals. The evening traffic hummed outside, masking their presence among delivery vehicles and work crews. Run it again, Andre said, adjusting his headset. Clara stood in the back of the van, smoothing her borrowed blazer. Senator Whitmore, weekly payments through shell company Highland Solutions. Judge Marcus Rodriguez, offshore account in the Caymans funded by Sterling's charity. Captain Michael Reeves. Good, Priya nodded, eyes on her screens. Natural, like you're just reading a menu. Clara practiced the hand movements, how she'd reach for her phone, pretend to check orders while actually pulling up the Lista evidence. Every motion had to look routine, invisible. The stream will push to 20 different platforms simultaneously, Priya explained, typing commands. Even if they kill the main feed, backups will keep broadcasting. They can't stop them all. Andre checked his watch, then pulled out a burner phone. He dialed a number from memory, waited 3 rings, then spoke. Package ready for inspection at the tower. Time-sensitive materials require immediate review. A pause. Yes, that location. 7 sharp. He hung up. Agent Ruiz? Clara asked. Andre nodded. She'll understand. The feds have been building a case against Sterling for months. They just needed concrete evidence. Like a live confession? Clara's voice was steady, but her fingers worried the edge of her blazer. Along with everything else we've got, it'll bury him, Priya confirmed. The van's interior felt smaller as the minutes ticked by. Clara ran through the names again, this time softer, almost a whisper. Each one represented someone Sterling had bought or threatened into silence. Each one was a link in the chain she meant to break. At 6:45, she stepped out onto the sidewalk. The tower loomed above, its glass face reflecting the sunset in sheets of orange and gold. She joined a group of catering staff filing through the service entrance, keeping her head down, movements efficient. The security guard barely glanced at her ID badge, a perfect replica Priya had created. Clara moved with the others through familiar back corridors, past storage rooms and prep areas she'd cleaned countless times before. Audio coming through clear, Priya's voice whispered in her earpiece. Video feed stable. Clara pushed through swinging doors into the main kitchen. The space bustled with activity, servers arranging appetizer trays, bartenders stocking ice. Through the pass-through window, she caught glimpses of the main conference room being prepared. Sterling's voice carried from the hallway. Clara turned away, arranging glasses with mechanical precision as he swept past with Harold Blaine. The board just needs reassurance, Blaine was saying. Once we explain the situation, they need to remember who built this company, Sterling snapped. Who holds their comfortable lives in his hands? Clara's phone vibrated. A text from Priya. Mic check good. Stream primed. All systems ready. The conference room filled steadily. Clara recognized faces from charity galas and dinner parties, the wealthy and powerful who'd looked away that night in the penthouse. Now they whispered nervously, checking stock prices on their phones. Security positioned themselves at each exit. Clara noted their positions as she helped set water pitchers on the long tables. Andre's intel was accurate. The shift change would come just as Sterling began his remarks. The overhead lights dimmed right on schedule. A projector hummed to life, casting Sterling's company logo across the front wall. Clara stepped back into the shadows near a heavy velvet drape, feeling the weight of the evidence in her phone, the invisible eye of the camera in her lapel. Her earpiece crackled softly. "Federal agents are in position," Andre murmured. "Agent Ruiz has a team standing by." Clara watched Sterling take his place at the podium, Harold Blaine hovering nearby like a worried shadow. The shareholders settled into their seats, faces lit by the blue glow of the presentation screen. She measured her breathing. In for 4 counts, out for 4. The same pattern she'd used while cleaning Sterling's office that first night when she'd discovered the drive. The same rhythm that had carried her through the humiliation in his penthouse. The drape's heavy fabric brushed her arm, cool and grounding. Around her, the room held its collective breath, waiting for Sterling to explain away the chaos of the past 24 hours, waiting for him to restore their faith, their profits, their comfortable illusions. Clara's hand found her phone. The names were ready. The evidence was linked. The stream was live. In the shadows, she waited for her moment. No longer a maid, no longer invisible, no longer silent. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," Sterling began, his smile confident and practiced. "I know you have concerns." Sterling gripped the podium with manicured fingers, his knuckles white against the polished wood. "I want to address the malicious allegations that have been circulating," he said, voice smooth as aged whiskey. "Rest assured, Caldwell Industries maintains the highest standards of corporate governance." From her position near the wall, Clara watched board member Marlene Ash's face tighten. The woman who'd resigned on live television that morning now sat in the back row, arms crossed. "Our internal review process will be robust and transparent," Sterling continued. "Every document, every transaction will face proper scrutiny. Those responsible for spreading these baseless accusations will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law." A murmur rippled through the room. Clara adjusted her grip on the water pitcher, angling her body so the lapel camera had a clear view. The live stream counter in her earpiece ticked steadily upward. Thousands watching, waiting. "Mr. Caldwell," called out James Chen, a major shareholder. "The SEC has already seized documents from 3 subsidiary offices. Are you suggesting those warrants were based on false information?" Sterling's practiced smile flickered. "The Securities and Exchange Commission often conducts routine reviews. We welcome their oversight and—" "Routine?" Another voice cut in. Patricia Walsh from the Audit Committee. "Our stock has lost 60% of its value. There's nothing routine about that." Outside in the van, Priya's fingers flew across her keyboards, monitoring the stream quality and backup channels. The feed was crystal clear, carrying every word to waiting audiences worldwide. Movement caught her eye. A figure approaching the van's side door. She reached for the panic button, then relaxed as V's face appeared in the window. Andre quickly let her in. V's left eye was swollen, and she moved with a pronounced limp, but her expression was fierce with triumph. "Got it," she whispered, pulling a USB drive from her jacket. "Internal system logs. Proves Sterling ordered security cameras disabled during special deliveries." plus records of payments to families of journalists who died mysteriously. Priya grabbed the drive, her normal cool efficiency tinged with urgency. Timestamps match our other evidence. I'll merge it into the stream queue. Back in the conference room, the questions grew sharper. Clara moved between tables, topping off water glasses, always keeping Sterling in frame. "What about the overseas factory collapse?" demanded Marlene Ash. 300 workers died because you falsified safety reports. "That facility was independently operated," Sterling snapped, his polished veneer cracking. "If local contractors cut corners—" "The contracts show direct oversight," James Chen interrupted. "Your signature is on the orders to skip inspections." Harold Blaine stepped forward, hands raised placatingly. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess to—" "No." Sterling's voice cracked like a whip. "I built this company. I made all of you rich. And now you dare question my methods?" Clara's earpiece hummed. "New evidence integrated," Priya whispered. "Stream holding steady at 50,000 viewers. Agent Ruiz's team is in position." The water pitcher felt cool and solid in Clara's hands as she moved toward the front of the room. Sterling's glass was nearly empty, the perfect excuse to approach. Her heart beat steady and strong, each pulse carrying away the last traces of fear. "You ungrateful vultures," Sterling was saying, his facade fully crumbled. "You think you can survive without me? I know where every body is buried. I know who's been paid, who's been threatened, who's been— Go!" Priya's voice came sharp and clear in Clara's ear. She stepped into the harsh glare of the podium lights, pitcher raised. Sterling's glass sat within easy reach. But this time, she did not step back into the shadows. This time, she did not look away. Sterling's words died in his throat as he recognized her. The room seemed to hold its breath. Board members, security guards, Harold Blaine all frozen in place as Clara stood her ground, the camera in her lapel recording every second. The silence stretched taut as a wire about to snap. Through her earpiece, Clara heard Priya's quick breathing, heard Andre murmuring to Agent Ruiz, heard the soft beep of viewer counts climbing higher and higher. "You!" Sterling's face contorted, but Clara didn't flinch. She'd seen his true face before in the penthouse kitchen. Now it was time for everyone else to see it too. Her hand moved toward her phone, toward the list of names and crimes that would bring his empire crashing down. In the van, Priya's fingers hovered over the final command that would blast the evidence across every platform. V pressed ice to her bruised face, watching the screens with grim satisfaction. The pitcher remained steady in Clara's grip as she faced her former employer. She didn't need to look at the names anymore. She knew them by heart, just as she knew every detail of this room, every face that had turned away that night, every moment that had led to this one. Clara lifted her chin, her voice carrying to every corner of the stunned boardroom. "My name is Clara May Johnson. I was your maid last night. You told me to know my place." The silence shattered. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd like wind through dry leaves. Sterling's face drained of color, then flushed dark red. "This is List A," Clara continued, her phone glowing in her steady hand. "Judge Marcus Harrison paid $2 million through Cayman shell companies to dismiss workplace safety violations." She paused, letting the name hang in the air. "Police Captain Daniel Rourke, $500,000 to coordinate cleanup operations after reporter deaths." Harold Blaine lurched forward, but froze as documents began flooding screens around the room. Priya's work was precise, each piece of evidence appearing in perfect synchronization with Clara's words. Commissioner James Walsh, $1.2 million to block investigations. Clara's voice grew stronger with each name. Detective Sarah Morrison, $300,000 to falsify evidence. In the van, Priya's fingers danced across multiple keyboards, ensuring the stream reached every platform. Andre coordinated with security cameras, switching angles to capture every reaction. The viewer count exploded. 200,000, 300,000, climbing faster than the numbers could update. "You can't," Sterling started, but Clara spoke over him. "Senator Elias Whitmore." The name fell like a hammer blow. 4.6 million in targeted donations, plus monthly payments of $50,000 to delay regulatory oversight. Board member Patricia Walsh stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I resign, effective immediately." She gathered her papers with shaking hands. "And I'll be contacting the SEC directly." 3 more board members followed suit, pushing back from the table. Harold Blaine made a desperate move toward the sound system, but the young AV technician simply stepped away from the controls, hands raised, letting the stream continue uninterrupted. Director Thomas Chen, paid to suppress evidence of human trafficking. Clara's steady recitation continued. Judge Patricia Martinez, 2.8 million to dismiss class action lawsuits. Sterling's security team shifted uncertainly near the doors. Andre moved casually to block their path, his badge displayed prominently. "Federal investigation in progress," he said quietly. Nobody moves. Phones began buzzing throughout the room as news alerts cascaded. CNN, Reuters, AP. The story was everywhere now. Clara kept reading, each name another nail in Sterling's coffin. Assistant DA Robert Morgan, 1.5 million to decline prosecution. She looked directly at Harold Blaine. CFO Harold Blaine, offshore accounts totaling $12 million for coordinating payoffs and falsifying records. Blaine sagged against the wall, his carefully maintained composure crumbling. Several shareholders were already on their phones to their brokers, faces ashen. "This is slander!" Sterling's voice cracked. "Security! Remove her immediately!" But the guards didn't move. Andre had positioned himself perfectly, his body language and quiet authority keeping them frozen in place. Through her earpiece, Clara heard Priya reporting viewer numbers now approaching 1 million. "The evidence is verified," Clara continued. "Bank records, contracts, emails, video footage, all authenticated. Timestamps, digital signatures, blockchain verification." She met Sterling's eyes. "Including footage from your penthouse security cameras showing exactly how you treat your workers." The room erupted in chaos. More resignations shouted across the tumult. Phones kept buzzing. Someone near the back was already talking to the FBI. Sterling's face contorted into something inhuman. He shoved away from the podium, abandoning all pretense of control. His expensive shoes clicked against the floor as he marched straight toward Clara, body rigid with fury. She didn't back away. The camera caught everything, his twisted expression, his clenched fists, the spittle flying from his lips as he leaned in close. "You shouldn't have done that," he hissed, the words crystal clear on her lapel mic. Clara stood her ground, the phone still raised between them like a shield. On its screen, the evidence continued to scroll, an endless litany of corruption and cruelty finally exposed to the light. Through her earpiece, she could hear Priya confirming that federal agents were moving into position. The room had gone quiet again, everyone watching the tableau at the front, the billionaire CEO looming over the former Maid, his carefully constructed mask of respectability shattered beyond repair. Cameras flashed, phones recorded. The world watched through Clara's live stream as justice finally caught up with Sterling Caldwell III. The documents kept flowing across screens throughout the room. Each new revelation drew fresh gasps and murmurs. Board members continued to distance themselves, physically and professionally. The empire Sterling had built on threats and bribes was crumbling in real time, broadcast to millions. Sterling's face twisted with savage fury. His hand shot out, fingers closing around Clara's throat before she could react. With shocking strength, he slammed her backward against the floor-to-ceiling window. The glass vibrated with the impact. "I bury problems," he snarled, spittle flying from his lips. His perfectly manicured nails dug into her skin. "And you're just another problem." Clara's hand found the metal serving tray she'd dropped. She swung it hard, catching him in the ribs with the edge. Sterling grunted, his grip loosening slightly. The sound echoed through the now silent boardroom. "Security!" someone screamed. Sterling's palm cracked across Clara's face, snapping her head to the side. Stars exploded in her vision. She tasted blood. But 18 years of hauling garbage bags and scrubbing floors had made her stronger than he expected. She planted her feet and shoved back with everything she had. Sterling stumbled backward into the window. The glass creaked ominously. 40 stories of empty air waited on the other side. "You little—" He lunged for the lapel camera, trying to tear it free. Clara trapped his wrist against her collarbone, twisted her hip, and drove her heel down onto his instep. He howled. The live-stream counter in her earpiece kept climbing. 2 million viewers now watched Sterling Caldwell III reveal his true nature to the world. Clara rammed him sideways into the emergency exit bar. An alarm shrieked through the building. Sterling's eyes went wild. He clawed for her face, aiming for her eyes. She jerked back just in time, then raked her nails across his mouth. Blood welled from his split lip. "Not tonight," she spat, her voice raw but steady. He charged like a bull, driving them both to the floor. Clara's shoulder hit first, sending pain shooting down her arm. They rolled, trading blows. His expensive suit tore. Her uniform was stained with both their blood. The lapel camera captured everything. "Get her off me!" Sterling screamed, but his security team remained frozen, watching the federal investigation unfold. Andre blocked the main entrance, his stance unmistakably professional. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Through the glass walls, Clara glimpsed red and blue lights reflecting off neighboring buildings. Help was coming. She just had to hold on. Sterling grabbed a handful of her hair, slamming her head against the floor. Clara's vision blurred, but she kept her arms up, protecting the camera. Everything had to be recorded. The world needed to see. "I'll kill you," he hissed in her ear, quiet enough that only the lapel mic caught it. "I'll destroy everything you love. Your family, your friends." Clara drove her knee up into his stomach. He wheezed, falling sideways. She scrambled away, leaving bloody handprints on the polished floor. Her whole body screamed in pain, but she forced herself to stand. "It's over," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You can't hide anymore." Sterling launched himself at her again, but his attack was wild, uncontrolled. Clara sidestepped, letting his momentum carry him past. He crashed into a chair, sending it skidding across the floor. The boardroom doors burst open. Agent Carla Ruiz led a team of federal agents into the room, weapons drawn. "FBI! Everyone on the ground!" Sterling froze halfway through, getting up, his bloody face caught in the glare of tactical flashlights. His expression shifted from rage to disbelief to something close to fear. "Sterling Caldwell," Agent Ruiz announced, her voice crisp and professional. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, racketeering, witness tampering, and suspected involvement in multiple homicides." 2 agents moved to secure him, while others spread through the room, controlling the chaos. Clara sagged against the wall, her hand going to the lapel camera. It was still transmitting. "The camera!" Sterling growled as agents pulled his arms behind his back. "Turn it off!" "Turn it off!" But Clara kept it running. The world watched as Sterling Caldwell III, self-made billionaire and philanthropist, was led away in handcuffs, his mask of respectability literally beaten away to reveal the monster beneath. Through her earpiece, she heard Priya's voice. 3 million viewers and climbing. Every major network is carrying it live. Clara touched her split lip, wincing. Her throat ached where Sterling had grabbed her. There would be bruises tomorrow. But she was standing, and he was the one being led away. Red and blue lights continued to strobe through the windows, painting the scene in alternating colors. Agent Ruiz approached Clara, her expression both professional and concerned. "Are you all right?" she asked, gesturing for a medic. "That was intense." Clara nodded, not trusting her voice. Around them, agents were already gathering evidence, securing computers, and interviewing witnesses. The board members who hadn't fled were being detained for questioning. The live stream kept running, documenting everything. Clara had promised herself the truth would come out, all of it, and now it had. Sterling's empire of secrets was crumbling in front of millions of viewers. Federal agents swarmed the Caldwell Industries boardroom, their movements precise and coordinated. Sterling struggled as they secured his wrists behind his back, the handcuffs clicking shut with finality. Next to him, Harold Blaine offered no resistance, his face a mask of resigned acceptance, as agents cuffed him. Through the glass walls, camera flashes created a strobe effect. News crews had already gathered outside, alerted by the viral live stream. 2 NYPD captains burst through the stairwell door, badges out, but Agent Ruiz's team smoothly intercepted them. "Those officers are named in List A," Clara said quietly to Agent Ruiz. "They received regular payments through shell companies." Ruiz nodded, motioning for her agents to detain the police officers. The captains' protests died as they recognized the federal authority on display. "Sterling Caldwell III," Agent Ruiz's voice carried across the room as she read from an official document. "You are under arrest for multiple federal violations, including wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to commit tax evasion, witness intimidation, and violations of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act." The charges echoed through the live stream, which now displayed rolling text of bank transfers and shell company documentation. News chyrons at the bottom of screens worldwide flashed urgent updates. Breaking: Caldwell's 2.4B Empire craters amid federal raids. Sterling's face, already bruised from the fight, twisted into a snarl. "This is a mistake. Call my lawyers. Call—" "Your lawyers are currently being questioned by the SEC." Ruiz cut him off coolly. Trading in all Caldwell Industries stocks has been suspended. Clara watched as Ruiz's team worked with mechanical efficiency. Some agents gathered hard drives and documents, while others photographed the scene. Federal prosecutors were already filing emergency asset freeze motions, their timing coordinated with the arrests. Movement caught Clara's eye. Senator Whitmore, who had remained silent in the corner throughout the chaos, was edging toward a side exit. He moved carefully, trying not to draw attention. Clara noticed his hands were steady as he straightened his tie, a man used to slipping away from consequences. V appeared at Clara's side, her face still showing bruises from her earlier encounter with Sterling's men. She squeezed Clara's hand. "We got one head of the snake," she whispered. "The others will have to wait." Andre approached Agent Ruiz, his security uniform crisp despite the chaos. "Ma'am, I have documented evidence correlating specific payments from Mr. Caldwell's private accounts to the deactivation of security cameras during certain sensitive operations." His voice was clear and professional as he detailed dates, times, and amounts. Ruiz nodded, gesturing for another agent to take his full statement. The evidence was mounting by the minute, each new piece reinforcing the others. The live stream counter showed over 4 million viewers watching justice unfold in real time. Clara touched her throat where Sterling's fingers had left marks. A paramedic tried to check her injuries, but she waved them away. She needed to see this through. Harold Blaine was led out first, flanked by agents. The former CFO's shoulders were slumped, his carefully maintained facade of corporate respectability crumbling. Next came the police captains, their faces burning with shame as fellow officers watched them being escorted to waiting vehicles. Finally, agents moved Sterling toward the exit. His expensive suit was torn and bloody, his face beginning to swell where Clara had struck him. News photographers pressed against the glass, their cameras capturing every moment of the billionaire's fall. As they reached the black federal SUV waiting at the curb, Sterling turned his head. His eyes locked with Clara's through the window. He mouthed words clearly, meant for her to see. "This isn't over." Clara didn't flinch. She held his gaze steadily, the same way she had when he'd first tried to intimidate her in his kitchen. His $2.4 billion empire was imploding around him. His political connections were scattering like roaches from light. His carefully constructed world of corruption and intimidation was being dismantled piece by piece on live television. The SUV door closed on Sterling's face. Agents climbed in front and back. The vehicle pulled away from the curb, emergency lights reflecting off the glass and steel canyon of the financial district. Clara watched until it disappeared around a corner, carrying away the man who had thought himself untouchable. Behind her, federal agents continued their methodical work. Evidence was tagged and bagged, witnesses were interviewed, the machinery of justice ground forward, crushing everything Sterling had built through decades of corruption and cruelty. The live stream was still running, its view now showing split screens of the arrests, document excerpts, and financial data. Priya's voice came through Clara's earpiece. "We're trending worldwide. Every major network is breaking down the evidence. He's finished." In a makeshift conference room of the community legal clinic, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Clara, V, Andre, and Priya gathered around a scratched wooden table. Agent Ruiz's voice crackled through the speakerphone placed at the center, her tone businesslike but satisfied. "The asset freeze is complete," Ruiz reported. "Every Caldwell account we could trace is locked down. The prosecutors are confident about the indictments. The evidence is overwhelming." Clara rubbed her tired eyes, still processing the events of the past 24 hours. The borrowed office chair creaked as she leaned forward. "What about the workers? The people he hurt?" "We're filing a motion to establish a restitution fund," Ruiz explained. "The seized assets will be used to compensate victims. It's going to take time, but there will be justice." V, her bruises now turning purple-yellow, was typing rapidly on her laptop. "We're getting flooded with messages. More whistleblowers coming forward. Former employees, contractors, people who lost everything to his schemes. Send them my direct line," Ruiz instructed. "Every statement strengthens the case." Clara's phone buzzed, a message from her landlord. "Police called about your lease complaint. Very apologetic. Your belongings are safe." She forwarded Ruiz's contact information, then did the same for Jamal's public defender. Minutes later, Jamal himself called. "They just released me, sis," he said, his voice thick with relief. "All charges dropped. The defender said the feds stepped in." "You okay?" Clara asked, stepping away from the table for privacy. "I'm good. Real good." He paused. "You did something big, didn't you?" "We all did," Clara replied, watching her friends working across the room. "We all did." Through the clinic's windows, they could see crews in yellow vests moving along the street, posting notices on Caldwell properties. The bright orange papers declared, "Seized by federal court order," in bold letters. Pedestrians stopped to take photos, some cheering, others simply staring in disbelief. Andre's security radio crackled with chatter about the notices going up at Caldwell headquarters. He smiled grimly. Main entrance is taped off. Building's dark except for the feds still collecting evidence. Priya hadn't looked up from her screens for hours. Stream archive is complete, she announced. Every second, every document, every reaction, all preserved and authenticated. Nobody can erase this. V finished a call and addressed the group. Press conference scheduled for tomorrow morning. Major networks, international outlets, independent media. They all want the full story. You don't have to speak publicly, Ruiz reminded Clara through the speaker. We can protect your identity. Clara shook her head. No more hiding. People need to see that someone can stand up and win. The afternoon wore on. More messages arrived. Workers sharing stories of abuse, investors revealing threats, journalists connecting dots to other cases. Each one strengthened the web of evidence around Sterling and his conspirators. Around sunset, rain began falling over the city. Clara stood at the window, watching drops trace patterns on the glass. Behind her, Priya and V coordinated with advocacy groups, while Andre helped Ruiz's team identify more witnesses from security footage. I need some air, Clara announced quietly. No one tried to stop her as she pulled on her coat. Outside, the rain had cleared most people from the streets. Steam rose from manholes, and the wet pavement reflected neon signs and traffic lights. Clara walked slowly, letting the cool drops wash over her face. Her path took her past Caldwell headquarters, the gleaming tower now dark and silent. The orange seizure notice fluttered in the wind, its plastic covering catching streetlight. Clara paused, reaching out to touch the paper gently. 58 floors of glass and steel rose above her, built on corruption and cruelty. Now it stood as a monument to consequence, to the power of truth spoken clearly and courage held firmly. The next day, she whispered, a faint smile crossing her lips as she remembered her mother's favorite saying about better times ahead. Her phone vibrated. A message from Priya. We did it! Clara's fingers moved across the screen. One down. She turned away from the tower, walking toward the subway that would take her home. The city felt different now. Not safer, exactly, but more awake, more aware of its own power to change. The rain continued falling, washing the streets clean, while all around her the vast machinery of justice and consequence ground forward, unstoppable now that it had begun to move. Traffic lights changed, trains rumbled beneath her feet. Millions of lives continued flowing through the city's arteries, but something had shifted, like the first small crack that precedes an avalanche. The rain fell harder, and Clara walked on, letting it soak into her bones. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends, and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.